us consider about this topic which is called trigonometry. We learned in the Form 2 topic, we have the topic which is called trigonometry. So in this case, we can call that the first part of trigonometry, which is all about trigonometric relation. But for the second part here, we are just going to discuss is the second part of trigonometry. So let us start with what we call it positive angles. Ukifanya consideration, if now you consider about XY planes, this is XY plane, means this is Y and this is X. By using these XY planes, we can draw a circle around these XY planes. This XY plane, we have drawn a circle. By using the concept of XY plane, this circle will be divided into 4 quarters. The first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter. And those quarters are called quadrants. They are called quadrants. So we have the first quadrant, and we have the second quadrant, and we have the third one and the fourth one. The reason that you should explain, why is it measured from here going this way and not from here going this way, and not from here going this way, or from here going this way? If now you go back and you get the reference about vectors, the direction of the vector is measured from east and clockwise. From east and clockwise. Point hii ni muhimu sana kwamba tunapofanya consideration za vector, tulisema vector inapimwa kutoka kwenye east anti-clockwise. Na vector inakuwa given with the direction kwa kutumia angle. Manake the direction of the vector should be given by using an angle or by using compass direction. But here now, we are just talking about angle. So the angles are measured from east and clockwise. Not east clockwise, east and clockwise. Na ndio maana tumeanzia hapa ambayo ni east. Kwenda wapi? Kwenda hivi, and clockwise. Kwa hiyo hii principle ya vector, it is also applicable kwenye hii points. Na ndio maana hii inaitwa first quadrant, inaitwa second quadrant, inaitwa third quadrant, inaitwa fourth quadrant. It is only measured from east and clockwise, and not east clockwise. And clockwise, manake kuelekea huku. That is the point, that is why it is called the first quadrant, the second quadrant, the third quadrant, and the fourth quadrant. After so far you have seen that kind of the thing. Now, we are looking for an angle. We are looking for the sine, tan, tangent, and cosine of an angle. In the first quadrant, which is positive and which is negative. In the second quadrant, which is negative and which is positive. In the third and also in the fourth. But if now you learned about trigonometric relation, by considering about the right angled triangle, we said we use this one, sotoka, over high. Means what? Cosine will be equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And tan is equal to opposite over adjacent. And is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. That is sine. For the more explanation, how do we elaborate this opposite and hypotenuse to the right angle triangle, you just want to refer. Just get back the reference of the video that we learned about trigonometric relation. Ukitaka kujua ni namna gani opposite na hypotenuse zinakuwa allocated, au adjacent, opposite na hypotenuse zinakuwa allocated kwenye nini? Kwenye right angled triangle, utaangalia video ya trigonometric relation ya form 2. Then, if that is the case, I have shown this one. Imagine now this in the first quadrant. In the first quadrants, here it is. This is the radius. According to the concept of a circle, a radius is the distance from a center of a circle to any point of the circumference. So this is why this is called radius. This is not radius, and this is not radius. From here up to here is not radius, because it is not a distance from the center of the circle to any points of a circumference. That is what we call it radius. So radius definitely is obtained after you have measured the distance from the center of the circle to any point of the circumference. That is the radius. That is why I've said this is radius. By considering this one, this right angled triangle in the first quadrants, this angle from here to here, angle theta. Remember, this is the adjacent and this is opposite. This is the hypotenuse. By considering this is the right angled triangle, the sine will be equal to opposite of a hypotenuse. Opposite is definitely here. So sine of an angle will be equal, opposite is positive y over hypotenuse is positive x. So we have sine of an angle which is equal now to, hypotenuse is r, hypotenuse is r. Hypotenuse definitely here. Now we have positive y over r. This is the sine of an angle. So in the first quadrant, sine is positive. And then let us see, tangent of an angle is equal now to opposite of adjacent. Opposite is y. And then adjacent is x, which is positive. Now also, this is positive. When you consider about cosine of an angle will be equal now to adjacent, which is the x, adjacent, over hypotenuse, which is r, this one. Also, this is positive. That is why all positive. And they can be explained in this kind of the way. They are shown as positive, as you can see, according to the principle of the XY plane, including the circle. But I've written this with the radius, as I said, and the distance from the center to any point of a circumference, that is called radius. That is why you can say in the first quadrant, all of them are positive. Means sine is positive, tangent is positive, and cosine is positive. What if now we are just talking about the second quadrant? As you can see here, this is the r, the distance from the center to any points of a circumference, that is called radius. And this is the y. This is y as positive, because on this side of the y plane, xy plane, this is the positive. But on this side, this is negative. Kwa sababu, this is the xy plane. Kwa upande huu ni negative, upande huu ni positive. Upande huu ni positive, upande huu ni negative. Kwa maana that is very important. Na ndio maana nimeandika hii hapa itakuwa negative x, hapa itakuwa ni positive y, hapa ni r. That is the second quadrant. Maana yake itakuwa ni nini? Maana yake sine of an angle will be equal to opposite. And an angle, hii angle, kwa sababu inakuwa measured from east, maana yake ni angle kutoka hapa mpaka hapa. Hii ndio angle tunasema sasa, ambayo kuna namna ambayo tutakuja to explain kwa ina kuja kudondokea hapa. Kwa sasa maana yake ni kwamba sine of an angle itakuwa ni opposite of hypotenuse. Opposite is positive y, hypotenuse is r. And then cosine of an angle. Cosine is equal now adjacent of hypotenuse. Adjacent is negative and hypotenuse is positive. Now adjacent is negative x over what? Over hypotenuse, which is r. And then tan of an angle, as I said, tan is equal to opposite over adjacent. Opposite is positive y, and then hypotenuse is positive. Therefore, this is positive y over what? Hypotenuse is r. But also sine opposite. Sine is different. Tan opposite of adjacent. Opposite over adjacent. Opposite over adjacent. Opposite is definitely adjacent is here. Negative x. and then we can do repetition. Means that sine is opposite of hypotenuse. Opposite is positive y, hypotenuse is r. Cosine is all about adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent is negative x, and then cosine adjacent is hypotenuse, which is r. But also we have tan, opposite of adjacent, opposite over adjacent. You can see here we have positive, here we have negative, here we have negative, here we have positive. Means only sine of an angle is positive. Only sine of an angle is positive. So here we say sine is what? Is positive. And we have shown mathematically how does it happen, why is it positive and why here it is negative. We have shown it clearly, and that is very important to understand that concept. Then for the third quadrant, here it is. Imagine we have this one. Remember this. Now y, this is negative y. Kwa sababu huku we are just talking about negative. Then imagine also here you have negative x, and then as usual this is r. But the angle is definitely measured. This angle was measured up to here, but this angle is definitely measured from here up to here, from east to here. So remember, let's start with sine. Sine of an angle is equal to opposite of hypotenuse. For this one, opposite is definitely here, hypotenuse is definitely here. So it is negative y over r. Then hizi ni coordinates tunatumia. Then tan of an angle is equal to opposite over adjacent. Opposite, where is the opposite? Is negative y over adjacent, negative x. It is negative x. Means it is y over x. Why is it so? Negative by negative is positive. Then we have cosine of an angle. Cosine is adjacent of hypotenuse. Adjacent is negative x. And hypotenuse is r. So when you look at this one is negative, this one is positive, and this one is negative. So in the third quadrant, which is positive, is what we call it tan. Tangents. Tangent is positive. Kwa hii tangent inakuwa positive as it seems to be positive kama unavyoiona. Kwa this sign here is positive and tangent is positive here. But here all positive, and we have shown them mathematically. Now let us see for the last one. So this is the first quadrant, and this is the second quadrant, and this is the third quadrant. Now let us see for the fourth quadrant. When you look at this one, as I said, it is also possible to understand it is from here, from definitely here up to here. So we are just talking about this one. Therefore, we have drawn this one is r. Halafu tayari hapa kwa sababu kwenye y tunazungumzia negative y. Halafu tayari kwenye x itakuwa ni positive, as you can see. Kwa hiyo hapa itakuwa positive, hapa itakuwa negative, then hii hapa ni r as usual, kwa sababu the distance from the center to any point of the circumference is termed as r. That is very important. So let us see. Now, sine of an angle is equal now opposite of a hypotenuse. Opposite of an angle. This is opposite of an angle. Now, opposite is negative y. Then over hypotenuse, which is r. And also it is negative. Then for tan of an angle, tangent of an angle is the opposite of adjacent. Opposite is definitely here. This is the opposite. Then it is negative y. Over adjacent is the positive x. And lastly, we are just talking about cosine of an angle. Cosine of an angle is the adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent is the positive x. And then hypotenuse is the r. So when you look at all of these three things that we have considered them here, These are negative, except the cosine is positive. That is why in the first quadrants, only cosine is positive. So by conclusion we can say, all positive we have shown it mathematical. Only sine is positive, we have shown it mathematical. Only tangent is positive, we have shown it mathematical. And only cosine is positive, we have shown it mathematical. So thank you very much for watching our learning video.